Hey guys, hey Dragon here, back here with another video. In today's video, I want to talk about the narrator from Hunter x Hunter, and particularly the narrator during the events of the Chimera Ant talk, to be even more precise, during the Palace invasion. Now, in the Palace invasion and the Chimera Ant talk as a whole, one of the biggest complaints is the narrator. Often people say that it's really lazy, it's badly done. They say, I prefer show, don't tell. That's often a commonly used phrase. And now, this all has to do with exposition. So I'm going to be defending the way that exposition is handled. Now, exposition is something that's very complicated and very difficult to pull off. In fact, I'll give you two examples from the Chimera Ant talk. I'll give you the example where Phaeton's got this pain-packer ability, and they need to find a way to convey to the audience that he has this ability, how it works, and the ins and outs of what it means for them. If not, if they just all started running away the moment he does his ability, we would be in total confusion. So here, a great case of exposition, we have Kaluto, a new member to the Phantom Troop, and they can talk to Kaluto like it's us, the audience, and it feels smooth and natural. A slightly less good example in the exact same chapter is Bolevanov explaining his ability even when his opponent's been taken out. Now, there a sacrifice had to be made, because if it wasn't done at that exact moment, it would have felt like, why are we getting this out of nowhere? So, it was done, it worked, but it wasn't that good. And for the events of the Palace invasion, everything happens in split moments, in the split of a seconds. And first of all, that's the first reason why we need the narrator. We need the narrator to keep the time frame of when everything is going on. Because both from the manga and the anime, everything's happening at such a ridiculous speed that without the context of how it's happening, it loses a lot of its depth and a lot of its dramatic effects. Second thing, we're bouncing from event to event. The Palace invasion is going from one character's perspective to another's. So we need to have smooth transitions. If we don't have the narrator, who at this case is the baseline for the Palace invasion, those transitions can feel hard, and they can feel like, hold on a second, let me get back. I want to go back to the one I was just on before. It's just a way of keeping consistency and of keeping a similar wavelength between all those different scenes as it moves between them. Another big reason is the context. This is this huge moment where there's no time for character reflections, for characters to show us their growth and to outwardly express how they're feeling inside. So the only way we can really see that is if for some reason out of nowhere they start talking or they start acting in a manner which slows down the story, because everything's happening very fast. If we have a moment where we get close-ups of characters' faces, and we've had a few, but they work well because they're few in between, and there are moments when the story stops and slows down. For instance, when Gon and Killua confront Pito, now that moment's been expertly built up to the point that it can slow down a bit, and we're still interested because of how much there is, how much substance there is in that moment. But without that, it would feel a bit hard. So the narrator is there to give us insights on these characters and what they're thinking and feeling. And this is this very case where show don't tell just wouldn't work, because if we suddenly get, all the characters really being very outwardly expressive of how they feel like, it would take away from the fluidity of the story. And if we've got this very nuanced, for instance, reactions and small things, we wouldn't have the same level of understanding and the same level of just complexity between those characters in those moments. We needed to see the narrator to explain how Yuppie is feeling, because we can't outwardly explain the fact that this one time Yuppie is making an explosive of himself, it's different from the time before. We need something to highlight the difference for us. In the end, the narrator is a bit like a teacher. The narrator is there to further enhance our understanding of what's happening and further enhance actually our appreciation. The narrator is the one that tells the backstories. For instance, with Narrator, that was very effective, because the whole point of a backstory is to be the backstory. It's the reason why things are happening now. And with him, because of the narrator there, the backstory was much shorter and much more concise than it otherwise would have been. Because without the narrator, they would have needed ways for Netero to tell someone, to explain, for us to visually see he's doing 10,000 punches, why he's doing those 10,000 punches, gratitude. You know, there's many hurdles to overcome when you don't have a narrator. And whilst I do agree on the compromise that a narration isn't ideal, in this case, it's the best case scenario. And it's the thing that really makes the palace invasion smooth and the pacing great. Because that's the thing, pacing is absolutely massive. For pacing, we need things to feel like there's motion. By motion, there always needs to be something going on that's gripping. And it does that with the palace invasion by having the narrator do the exposition whilst the action's happening simultaneously. And here, it essentially just kills two birds with one stone and keeps us engaged. You know, there's all these complaints about the narrator, yet the palace invasion is universally recognized as the greatest part of Hunter x Hunter. So in the end, I think this is people a bit, not realizing exactly what it would be like without the narrator. And you see lots of clips on YouTube about how it would look like in real time. And when you see that, it really just puts into play how much the narration is king in this situation. Because without narration, we would be lost on a timeline. We'd be lost with the power scales. We'd be lost with the emotions of the characters, with what's happening, the conditions of the abilities, how much of Knuckles' APR has been done before, it gets to Yuppie, because we can't understand these small things like the APR and growing. We need to know, is it close, is it close, is it close? And when we're given answers, are we given answers we don't like? It adds tension, it brings satisfaction, and in the end, it brings emotion to what's going on. I often think about combat sports, right? For me, right, when I first got into boxing, I didn't know any of the boxers, I didn't care. It was just meaningless punching. When you learn about someone's backstory, you go and you become invested in them. All those punches later on actually mean something. And that's what the narrator is there to do. It's there to make sure that you're engaged. No matter what's happening, you're engaged. That's why we got this time spent on shoots, right? We got this time with the narrators explaining Shoot's change in mentality. And that's so that when Shoot's about to be dead on the ground and Yuppie walks past him, we actually feel something. Imagine if that scene didn't hit. Imagine if we didn't understand why Knuckle did what he did. It would create a lot of frustration, annoyances, and in fact, it would make it so that people would just pretty much hold a grudge against the Chimera Antark because they didn't see why something happened the way it did. We see that a lot with endings in series at the moment where people are just like, I didn't like that ending. And the narrator is there to control the narrative. In the end, that's what narration is. It's narrative control. Even look at me with these videos. I'm making sure I control the narrative so that you can all understand what I'm saying. I'm essentially doing the role right now of the narrator in the Chimera Antark, so I completely understand. In the end, the narrator is there to make sure that we all are on the same page. That being said, we all know why Shoot wasn't just fighting Morel. There's these things where, due to the context and due to the sheer indefectibility of it, right? The fact that there's no plausible way to tell us. We don't have a Kaluto around that we can just lean back on. We don't have bits of text. It's all happening very, very fast. In fact, it's probably the fastest pacing in the series. We needed the narrator. So, to conclude, I believe that the narrator is one of the single most important parts of the Chimera Antark and its success. Now, I believe that show don't tell in general is a good principle, but there are times and exceptions for everything, and this is one of those particular exceptions. So with that being said, thank you so much for watching. If you've got a comment of a video you'd like me to do, please leave it down below. I'm currently in the alpha stages. I'm working on a Lumi versus Trollo video because that got suggested. I've done other videos that got suggested, so yes, please let me know. And this was Hadrigon. I hope you've had an incredible day. If you want to be part of this every single day Hunter x Hunter movement, this channel I'm doing, please consider subscribing. And yeah, that was Hadrigon. Peace out.